I'm a prophet to the king in the city, and I will tell him when he loses his way. I'm a prophet to the king in the city. I will tell him there's a writing on the wall. I'm God's messenger, standing for freedom, and I'll tear down the walls that stand against freedom.
When I joined the BBC 25 years ago, I never, ever, ever thought I would end up on screen. It was just not something I intended to do. I didn't have the confidence to do it. I was quite self-conscious. I would never have imagined that I'd be reading the national news and presenting the kind of programmes that I have done. A BBC undercover investigation.
So you will see me fall and you will see me bleed, but my words, they never die away. There's a generation that will be free. They'll remember my name for the right reasons. You will see me fall and you will see me bleed, but my words, they never die away. There's a generation that will be free, and they'll remember my name for the right reasons. They'll call me freedom. My name is freedom. They'll call me freedom, freedom, freedom. My name is freedom.
I was a local TV news producer at a media market station in New England. And I had worked so hard for this job, and I loved it so much that I was willing to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day to go to work. I would interview local politicians, community leaders, business owners about important issues like...
Very first morning, I couldn't talk about this matter. There is a huge political pressure. What should we do, madam?
Go for dating.
So you will see me fall and you will see me bleed, but my words, they never die away. There's a generation that will be free, and they'll remember my name for the right reasons.
Journalism matters in all its forms because unless you're informed, you can't make decisions. You can't make the right decisions because you won't have all the information. Journalism is the bridge between what happens and what people do with that information.
Journalism without a moral is impossible. Every journalist is a moralist. It's absolutely unavoidable.
The thing about legacy and traditional journalism, which people have taken for granted, is that it still performs a really important function. We learn this more and more with social media, where we have information overload. People think they can just find out for themselves and educate themselves on the issues.
We, being the journalists here, support democracy. We tell people stories. We bring issues to the forefront of decision makers. We keep our elected officials accountable.
Someone says, journalism is the first rough draft of history. Someone says, journalism can never be silent. That is the greatest virtue and its greatest fault.
So our job, I think, is to really use the time and resources that we have to gather that information and then distill it into something that makes sense.
I think probably one of the most important functions of journalism is holding truth to power. So holding governments and people in positions of power to account, because we can't just trust the information that we're given, by the government or by figures of authority.
Philosopher Ishimitra says that journalism is the result of the cells of happiness and sorrow in the center of the investigative mind, from which written or oral commentary of the Jews emanates. From such a specific position, who is the best journalist of Bangladesh of all time? What do you think?
Anyways, Naimul Islam Khan is the greatest journalist of all time.
around the world, covering all aspects of journalism. Some of them are very short, some of them are very long. But actually all of them are really focused on 5 key values for journalism. And the first of them is accuracy. I won't say truth, because truth is a very long word. It actually gets us into a discussion about really what is true and what is not true. But accuracy is very important. So therefore the first principle is no deceptive handling of the facts. We work in facts, so fact-based information. Secondly, there's the principle of independence. The work that you do is your own work, but it's not on behalf of anyone else. You're not there to be a spokesman for the government. You're not there to be a representative of a particular business group or a special interest group. You have transparency in what you do, so that when you are speaking and dealing with your audience and producing material, you're acting independently as an independent professional. Thirdly, there is the principle of impartiality. That is to say, you recognise that there's more than one side of a story. And very often there's more than 2 sides of a story. And as a journalist, you're responsible for looking and thinking about what are the other sides of this story. Here is one story that's being told, but what are the other opinions that I need to bring in to make the story whole? And then fourthly, there's the question of humanity. As a journalist, you're expected to show humanity. And what I mean by that is you're expected to be aware of the consequences of what you publish and what you broadcast. So you have to be aware that sometimes the words you use, the pictures you show can do damage. They can be harmful to people. It's not the job of a journalist to do undue harm. It's our job to protect people. And it's very important that when we are in reporting, we don't indulge in hate speech. We don't show obscene images. We don't show unnecessarily explicit images of violence and so on, because we are part of a humanitarian process, and that's what journalism should be. So humanity is a very important part of it. And fifthly is the issue of accountability. It's the one that's probably most difficult for journalists, and that's we're not a humble group. We find it difficult to say sorry and to admit our mistakes, even though we can be lacerating in our criticism of others. But we have to do that. We have to engage with the audience, and we have to correct our mistakes, and we have to be prepared to provide remedies when we get it wrong and do damage. So these principles are pretty straightforward. Accuracy, independence, impartiality, humanity, and accountability.
According to Mr. White, Naimul Islam Khan came to be the best character in the media in Bangladesh. In addition to the qualities of journalism, he has the potential to make reporters or other editors extraordinary. Yes, he has the ability to lead. Although the publishing house is not very rich, he has the ability to continue. In the 50 years since the independence of Bangladesh, there is an opportunity to do research on who is the best journalist of all time.
It was pretty scary making the decision to change career. Some people thought I was absolutely crazy, but I'm really glad I did, because I absolutely love what I'm doing now. For the last few years, we have seen the journalism trainee scheme was the perfect way to do it, because it gave me that year where I could try everything out, I could wander around the BBC, get incredible experience.
Journalism is the service of creating and editing reports on events, topics, ideas, possibilities and people, which is the main news of the day, and its impact on the society. The color of journalism can be highlighted by adopting 5 questions and adopting information gathering techniques and literary methods. Naimul Islam Khan is basically that kind of editor. He became the editors of Bengali newspaper Ajkir Kagoj, another Bengali newspaper Bhorer Kagoj, and was able to make history through the daily newspaper Amader Shomoy. He is currently the editor-in-chief of Our Time, which is English National Daily, and Bengali newspaper Amader Notun Shomoy. Meanwhile, good and evil, the two-way competition of nature also has an effect on human society. Man is in the most convenient position to give news or information to the two minds of nature, but people are more self-centered. They're busy to spread their news. The most powerful medium of the mass media is the news media. Journalism is a great part in this arena. Journalism is the production and distribution of reports on current events based on facts and supported with proof or evidence. The word journalism applies to the occupation as well as citizen journalists who gather and publish information based on facts and supported with proof or evidence. Journalistic media include print, radio, television, internet, and in the past, newsreels. Interestingly, media personalities are telling the future of news media is in our hands.
1938. Aliens landed on Grover's Mill, New Jersey, and dispatched to take over the world. Mass hysteria ensued. People thronged police stations demanding to be evacuated. Those who couldn't handle the shock dropped dead of a heart attack. Others tried suicide. At least that's what the Post and the Times and other newspapers reported. The truth is that the great American storyteller, Orson Welles, had simply aired a very frightening radio drama. After all, it was almost Halloween. Some people expressed concern, sure, but most understood the disclaimers during War of the Worlds that it was fictional entertainment. And still, the newspapers kept churning out these stories, very likely in an effort to discredit their new rival in the news business, the very new technology of radio. We also live in an era of unprecedented technological upheaval that's transforming the ways in which we communicate. Of course, we're confused about who to trust. What has not changed is the power of the free market. Consumers have incredible influence over the news media. Supply always follows demand. We are the demand. And just like those listeners in 1938, who knew that War of the Worlds was just a good bit of Halloween fun?
There are several forms of journalism with diverse audiences.
Why politicians are making the choices they're making, getting them to justify them, trying to explain through facts and analysis why certain things are being done, to try to expose problems that they may not be aware of, to try and fix those problems.
We're all in this together, and part of being a good citizen and contributing to that national conversation and that national decision making is filling your brain with stuff and not just doing stuff on the basis of what you heard yesterday from some guy down the street.
The best economic journalism is the one that is able to coordinate and manage this encounter between different actors, the public, the experts, and bring them to construct actionable knowledge.
Investigative reporting has different names. Some people call it depth reporting, some call it enterprise reporting, others project reporting, but all these are loosely grouped under the rubric of investigative journalism. What is investigative journalism? You can get a lot of definitions from different people, but the journalists themselves who practice investigative reporting pretty much agree on a set of characteristics that describe the field. The first definition, if you look in an English language dictionary at the word investigation, it means systematic inquiry. It means that you're taking your time and you're going about things in a systematic way to analyze what is really going on in the world. Now, to this, we would add that the work you're doing is original as well as in-depth. So systematic, in-depth and original reporting is investigative journalism. Our second definition of investigative reporting is about forming a hypothesis. Good investigative reporters tend to think like an honest public prosecutor or a good police detective. They form a hypothesis about what's going on. They use, in effect, the scientific method. You form a theory and then you test it. You go out there and you find the facts that will either support or not support your thesis. It's one of the hardest things in investigative reporting. If your facts don't support your theory, you have to abandon it, but that's what we do. The third definition of investigative journalism is about using lots of public records and public data. Investigative reporters often talk about following trails, trails of people, trails of money, trails of institutions, trails of accountability. And they do this through paper trails and data trails. They collect as much as they can that's on the public record. They get documents leaked to them and data leaked to them. And then they analyze that and follow the trails to find out what's really going on. As Deep Throat famously said in the movie All the President's Men, if you want to know what's going on, follow the money. How do you follow the money? Data and documents. Our fourth definition of investigative journalism is about making public things that are secret or hidden. Investigative reporters are often dealing with secret information, with things that people, particularly in power, don't want to come out because it's embarrassing or it shows that they've abused their position or power in society. Part of our job is bearing those things and showing them to the public so that people really know what's going on. Sometimes it's not deliberate. Sometimes the facts of a given situation are just hidden behind a maze of circumstances and situations. And it's the job of a good investigative reporter to put those together. So in the end, 2 + 2 may actually equal 5. Our fifth definition of investigative journalism is about its focus on social justice and accountability.
Looking up who makes those decisions and finding out how to change something if something does need changing requires an informed citizenry. It requires a press that asks hard questions and requires a government that answers them.
So much data is being generated and created every day, and it is being created on such a fast pace. In this data lies many, many stories. And that is changing our news cycle. And that's why we get to see more of what is happening around the world. And perhaps that's why we think more of such events and incidents are happening around the world. A good journalist's secret weapon for creating great stories has traditionally been their sources.
Of a bad question. It's a bad question I asked. I've never heard a good example. I asked good questions. I listened to the answers. I followed up. I didn't scream at guests. I never counted me as more. A lot of talk show hosts, the guest is a prop for them. Guest is there to serve their needs. I never felt that way. I always felt that and Paul Newman said to me once, he says, you know, you're going to be there the next night.
Meanwhile, someone says that if your goal is to change the world, then journalism is an instant short-term weapon. According to this philosophy, Naimul Islam Khan is an example in Bangladesh history. If you want to give an award in journalism, or specifically call someone a genius, the state must first be educated. In 50 years of Bangladesh, the state is not well educated. Not all of the responsible positions in the government are efficient. On the other hand, due to the fact that the people are not educated, there is no chance to say that Bangladesh is moving forward in the development of culture. That's why legendary journalist Nurul Kabir telling like that.
Bangladesh as a state constitutionally guarantees the freedom of expression, subject to some restrictions, legally imposed restrictions. But in practice, Bangladesh has never been a place since its birth in 1971, an ideal place for truly independence of press, freedom of expression and opinion. Over the last more than 4 decades, there is no truly democratically oriented government in place. So all undemocratic governments, be it elected or unelected, be it civilian or it military, the first thing what they do is to try to suppress the public opinion so that there is no organized resistance getting shelled among the people, and no consensus is being built among the people against the repressive rules and regimes and autocratic behavior of the government.
Dr. Kabir Gayan is a professor, Department of Mass Communication and Journalism, University of Dhaka. She wrote about the future of journalism on Daily Star, which was, "It is hard to predict the future of journalism in Bangladesh mainly because of a lack of research. Whatever I write here is not informed research. I am simply positing a scenario." Television journalism in Bangladesh could never show much promise. Private television channels have often been criticized for their lack of professionalism. There is no guideline for television channel owners, and not all of them have professional expertise or even minimum education in this field.
I want to be a truth seeker. I want to be a journalist. I want to be like Naimul Islam Khan, Mutir Rahman, Tawfiq Imroz Khalidi, Nurul Kabir. But I think Naimul Islam Khan is too smart in this platform because he is special orator also.
I think a couple of things. One, I think it's important to figure out, to find your voice as a reporter and learn how to write in your voice. Whether you want to be in print or television, I think, especially in television, a lot of people underestimate the importance of writing and learning how to write in your voice.
I think the stereotype I had when I came to work at BBC was sort of white, middle-class men dominating the newsroom, and it is quite different to that.
Just under 2 minutes on this.
It doesn't matter what background you're from, it doesn't matter what colour your skin is, it doesn't matter how you've been brought up. If you've got the determination to get here, then you can get here. If I can do it, then anybody can.
How much of a national problem COPD is and how relevant it is to what's going on right now. Because coronavirus, as most of your viewers probably know, attacks the lungs, and COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Grace Ann has been training me in this art for a long time. We have been doing elbow bumps rather than handshakes, washing our hands constantly.
You deal with plans, policies, future. Very few other professions deal with it. So you deal with values, you deal with the mind, and you deal with the people. Everything you do affects others, and everything you do is for others. When you are working hard to find, to produce an investigative story about banking fraud, Why are you doing it? Is it because you had some money in that bank, or as that you have proposed some projects from that bank? No. You want the bank to be healthy, and for whom? For the borrowers. And who are the borrowers? People of the country.
I'm a prophet to the king.
In photography, there is a reality so subtle that it becomes more than reality.
I'm a prophet to the king in the city. I will tell him there's a writing on the wall. I'm God's messenger, standing for freedom. And I'll tear down the walls that stand against freedom.
Yes, we are proud that our Mahfuzanam Abdul Kafir Chaudhary Riajuddin Ahmed, Ibn Musa were born in here. There is no need to work hard to determine the best character in Bangladeshi journalism. There is no doubt that those who were feeling the need to look their best by lifting state titles or medals are big characters. But in order to choose the best journalist, one has to choose the leading character who will win the hearts and minds of the readers and viewers by competing with the media, which has become popular due to huge investment of businessmen. In such an example, Naimul Islam Khan became the best of all time by becoming one and unique entity. He is the character in print journalism. His continuity as an editor of a national daily or his creativity in reporting set him apart from others.
So you will see me fall and you will see me bleed, but my words, they never die away. There's a generation that will be free and they'll remember my name for the right reason.